Out. Now. The chalk hit the board with a sharp crack. Every head turned. The professor didn't look back. He kept writing, fast, precise, filling the blackboard with symbols most of the room couldn't even process yet. Lines layered over lines, integrals twisted into something unfamiliar, a problem that didn't look like it belonged in any textbook they had ever seen. Then he stopped. Silence settled. He placed the chalk down slowly, dust falling from his fingers, and spoke without turning around. No one in this room will solve this. A few students shifted uncomfortably. Someone let out a nervous laugh. Another whispered, "What even is that?" The professor turned now, calm. "Certain, and some of you," his eyes moved across the room, sharp, calculating, "shouldn't even be here." The words didn't land all at once. They sank in, slowly, heavier with every second. A few students smirked. Others avoided eye contact. In the back row, a girl sat still. Elias Carter didn't react, not outwardly. Her pen rested between her fingers, unmoving, her notebook open, half filled with clean, careful handwriting. But her eyes were locked on the board, every symbol, every line, every mistake, because there was one. The professor stepped aside, gesturing toward the equation like it was a challenge carved in stone. "I'll make this simple," he said. "Solve it, and I'll personally recommend you to the top research program." A pause, then his voice dropped slightly. "Fail, and you prove my point." The room tightened. No one moved. Chairs creaked softly as students leaned back, distancing themselves from the moment. This wasn't participation anymore. This was exposure. A boy in the second row shook his head under his breath. "Yeah." "No," another muttered, "not worth it." Elias lowered her gaze for a second. Just a second. Her grip tightened around the pen. She had already started solving it in her head, not completely. Not yet. But enough to know it wasn't impossible. A voice beside her whispered, low but sharp, "Don't embarrass yourself." She didn't look at him, didn't respond, just breathed in slowly, then out. The professor crossed his arms, waiting, watching the silence stretch, letting it work for him. "No one?" he pressed. "That's what I thought." Elias's fingers loosened, then tightened again. Her heart started to beat louder, not faster, louder, like it was echoing inside her chest. She looked back at the board. There it was again, that small flaw, that assumption everyone else had already accepted as correct. Everyone except her. Her chair made the slightest sound as she shifted. No one noticed. Not yet. Another breath. Then her hand rose. Not quickly. Deliberately. Like she was pushing through something heavier than fear. At first, no one reacted. Then the student next to her blinked, looked again. Wait. Heads turned. The movement spread. Her room felt it. That shift, the professor noticed last. His eyes landed on her raised hand. For a moment, he just stared, like he wasn't sure he was seeing it right. Then his lips curved slightly, not impressed. Amused. "You," he said. Elias didn't lower her hand, didn't speak, just held his gaze. The room was completely silent now. He gestured toward the board with a small flick of his wrist. "Go ahead." A couple of students exchanged looks. One shook his head, almost laughing. "This should be good." Elias stood. Her chair slid back softly behind her. Every sound felt louder now. Sharper. Her steps were steady as she walked down the aisle. Not fast, not hesitant, controlled. But the weight of every eye in the room pressed against her. Some curious, some doubtful, some already expecting her to fail. She reached the front, stopped. For a brief second, she just looked at the board. Up close now. The equation stretched wider than it had from her seat. More intimidating, more complex. The professor stepped slightly to the side, eye giving her space but not really. His presence lingered. "Watching," he said. But it didn't sound like patience. It sounded like a countdown. Elias reached for the chalk. Her fingers brushed against it, leaving a faint trace of white dust. Behind her, someone whispered again. Why would she even try? She heard it. Of course she did. But she didn't turn, didn't react. Her world narrowed to one thing: the board. She lifted the chalk. And in that moment, the question in the room wasn't just whether she could solve it. It was something deeper, something heavier, something no one said out loud. Did she even belong here? The chalk hovered in her hand. For a second, nothing moved. Then the scene breaks, not away from the moment but deeper into it. Because this wasn't the first time Elias Carter had been in a room where she felt like she didn't belong. It was just the loudest. Earlier that morning, the campus had felt too clean, too perfect. Stone buildings stretched into the sky, polished windows reflecting a world she still wasn't used to being part of. Students walked past in groups, laughing easily, speaking in a rhythm that sounded practiced, confident, like they had always been here. Elias walked alone, backpack strapped tightly, steps measured. Not slow. Just careful. She kept her eyes forward, but she noticed everything. The way people glanced at her, then away. The way conversations softened when she passed. Not obvious, not loud, but there. Is there. Inside the lecture hall, she had taken her usual seat. Back row, near the corner, not because she was afraid. Because it was easier to observe from there. From that seat she could see everyone. Who raised their hand too quickly, who spoke just to be heard, who actually understood, and who didn't. Her notebook was already open before the lecture even started. Pages filled with precise handwriting. No wasted space. No messy thoughts. Professor began speaking. She didn't just listen. She tracked every concept, every transition, every assumption. Sometimes she solved the problem before he finished writing it. Her pen would pause, because she already knew the answer. But she never said it, never raised her hand, never interrupted the rhythm of the room. Because the room had its own hierarchy, and she wasn't part of it. 2 rows ahead, a group of students leaned toward each other, whispering between explanations. Yeah, my tutor went over this last year. My dad actually worked with this model I interned. Elia's eyes didn't move from her notes, but the words reached her anyway. Different world, different starting line. After class, the hallway filled quickly. Clusters formed almost instantly. Names were called. Plans were made. Study group tonight? Yeah, same place. You coming? Of course. Elias stepped into the current, moving with the crowd, but not part of it. No one stopped her. No one called her name. She reached the library just before sunset. Same spot. Same table. Corner. Isolated. She placed her bag down gently, pulled out her books, and got to work. Hours passed. Pages turned. Problems solved. The outside world faded. This was where she existed best. Not in conversations. Not in rooms full of eyes. Here, where the only thing that mattered was whether the answer made sense. Around her, other students came and went. Some stayed for 10 minutes, some for 30. Few lasted as long as she did. At one point, 2 students sat a table away. They didn't notice her. Or maybe they did and didn't care. She's in our class, right? One of them said quietly. Yeah. She even get in? A small shrug. Probably diversity. Elia's pen stopped. Just for a second. The word didn't echo. It settled. Heavy. Familiar. She lowered her head slightly and continued writing. No reaction. No expression. Just one more line solved. Later that night, her dorm room. Silent. Her desk lamp cast a soft glow across stacks of notes and open books. The rest of the room stayed in shadow. She worked through another problem. Then another. Checking each step twice. Then a third time. Not because she didn't trust herself. Because she knew they didn't. Every answer had to be airtight. Every solution perfect. No space for doubt. No room for mistakes. Because one mistake wouldn't just be a mistake. It would be confirmation. The next morning, the lecture hall buzzed with quiet energy. A screen lit up at the front of the room. Participation rankings. Names appeared. Ordered. Public. Students leaned forward. Some confident. Some curious. Some already smiling. Elias didn't move. Her eyes lifted slowly to the screen. She scanned. Top names first. Then lower. Lower. Her name. At the bottom. Not because she didn't know. Not because she wasn't capable. But because she had never spoken. Around her, whispers started. Damn, didn't expect that. She felt the shift. Subtle, but real. It wasn't just that she was invisible anymore. Now, she was visible in the wrong way. Her fingers tightened slightly on the edge of her notebook, then relaxed. Her face didn't change. Her posture didn't shift. But something inside her adjusted. Because for the first time, it wasn't just what they thought. It was written, and now it was official. She didn't exist in that room, at least not in the way that mattered. And somewhere deep inside that silence, a question began to form. Not loud, not desperate, just quiet. Let that stay true. The chalk touched the board, but her mind wasn't there anymore. Not fully. Because moments like this didn't start here. They never did. They started in a place where silence meant something different, where being quiet wasn't mistaken for weakness. It was survival. Elias was 8 when she first learned how to make broken things work. Not toys. Real things. The calculator her mother found at a yard sale didn't turn on. The buttons stuck. The screen flickered. Most people would have thrown it away. Elias didn't. She sat cross-legged on the floor, small screwdriver in hand, carefully opening the back like she'd done it 100 times before, even though it was her first. Her mother watched from the doorway, tired but smiling. "You sure you know what you're doing?" she asked. Elias didn't look up. "No," she said quietly. Then after a pause, "But I'll figure it out." That was always her answer. Not confidence, not arrogance, just certainty. Hours later, the calculator flickered back to life. The screen steadied. Numbers appeared. Elias stared at it like she'd just unlocked something bigger than plastic and wires. Because she had. Their apartment wasn't big. One bedroom, peeling paint, a window that didn't close all the way in winter. Her mother worked 2 jobs, morning shifts and late nights, always moving, always tired, but never too tired to ask one question every evening. What did you learn today? Not what did you get? Not what grade? Just, what did you learn? At the small kitchen table, Elias would spread out whatever she had. Old worksheets, scrap paper, sometimes pages she'd found in the trash behind school, half used, half empty. She filled every space. Numbers. Things she wasn't taught. Things she figured out. Because the classroom never moved fast enough. And sometimes, it didn't move for her at all. In school, she sat the same way she would years later, back row. Observing. Teachers didn't ignore her on purpose. They just didn't see her. Elias, one of them once said, flipping through a stack of papers, "You're doing fine, just keep it up." Fine. The word felt small, like it didn't match what she was doing in her head. One afternoon, she raised her hand. Not high. Just enough. The teacher hesitated before calling on her. "Yes?" Elias explained her. Answer. Not just the result, but the process. A different way to get there. The room went still. For a moment, the teacher just blinked, then smiled politely. "That's creative," she said. "But let's stick to the method we learned." Elias nodded, lowered her hand, didn't raise it again. Weeks later, after class, that same teacher stopped her. "You're smart," she said. Elias waited. The teacher leaned slightly closer, voice softer now. "But don't aim too high. Just focus on doing well here." The words were gentle, but they landed hard. Don't aim too high. Elias didn't respond, just nodded again, and walked away. That sentence stayed. Not loud, not constant, but always there, like a ceiling she wasn't supposed to break. At home, things were different. Not easier, but different. Her mother didn't understand half the things Elias showed her. Numbers filled pages in ways that didn't make sense to her, but she never pretended. "I don't get any of this," she'd say, squinting at the paper. Then she'd look at Elias. "But you do." That was enough. One night, the power went out. The apartment fell into darkness. No lights, no noise, just silence. Elias lit a small candle and kept working. Her notebook glowed faintly under the flame. Her mother watched from across the room. "You could take a break," she said. Elias shook her head. "I'm close to what?" Elias looked down at the page. "Then back up." "Yacht." Her mother smiled, then said something that would stay with her longer than anything else. "You don't need their permission to be great. Not loud, not dramatic, just certain." Elias didn't fully understand it then, but she felt it. Years later, at a local math competition, she sat in another unfamiliar room. Different students. Energy, same feeling, out of place. The problems were harder. Moved through them quietly. One after another. No hesitation. When the results were announced, her name came first. For a moment, everything paused. Applause followed. Teachers smiled. Someone handed her a small certificate. It should have felt like something. Like proof, like validation. But as she stepped off the stage, she heard it. Soft, almost careless, beginner's luck. She didn't stop walking. Didn't turn or react. But something inside her shifted. Because it didn't matter what she did, how well she solved, how clearly she proved it. There would always be another explanation, another reason, another way to make it smaller. That night, she placed the certificate on her desk, looked at it for a long time, then slowly slid it into a drawer, closed it, not out of shame, out of understanding. She wasn't going to win this by proving anything to them, not teachers, not students, not anyone. From that moment on, something became clear. She didn't need their recognition, she didn't need their approval, and she definitely didn't need their permission. She just needed the answer. And now, standing in front of that board, chalk in hand, a room full of eyes waiting for her to fail, that same quiet decision returned. Stronger, sharper. She wasn't here to prove them wrong. She was here to finish what she already started. The chalk pressed lightly against the board. But before it could move, the room shifted again. Not in sound. In memory. Because what stood in front of her now wasn't just one moment. It was a pattern. And patterns, she understood better than anything. Back at Harvard, it never started loud. It never needed to. It was quiet, precise, calculated. Like everything else in that place. The first time she raised her hand, it felt small, natural. The professor had just asked a question, something simple on the surface, but layered underneath. Elias knew the answer before the sentence finished. Her hand lifted. Halfway, she waited. The professor scanned the room. eyes moving past her, landing on someone else. "Yes, Daniel?" Answered, partially correct. Nodded anyway. "Good, exactly." Elia's hand stayed up for a second longer, then slowly lowered. Her answer never left her mouth. The second time it happened faster. She raised her hand again, higher this time, clear, visible. The professor paused. His eyes met hers just briefly, then shifted away. "Yes, Emily." Emily hesitated. "Tried. Got it wrong." The professor corrected her gently, encouraging, patient. Elia's hand dropped again. This time quicker. No one noticed, except her. After that, she stopped raising it as often. Not completely, just less. Because each time felt like knocking on a door that didn't open. And eventually you stopped knocking. Group work was worse, not because it was difficult, because it wasn't. That was the problem. 4 students, 1 table, laptops open, voices overlapping. "Okay, so we split this into parts," someone said. "Yeah, I'll handle the modeling. I'll do the presentation slides. I'll write the summary." Then a pause. Eyes shifted, briefly, toward her. "You can check the data?" one of them said. Not a question. She didn't argue, didn't push, just opened her laptop, started working. While they talked, she listened, always ahead. Halfway through, she noticed it, a flaw in their approach, not obvious, but enough to break everything later. She waited for a pause, then spoke, quietly. "If we restructure the model, we can avoid that error." The table went still for a second, not interested, in hesitation. One of them glanced at her, then back at the screen. "We're fine," he said. "Let's just stick with this." Conversation resumed, like she hadn't spoken. Elias didn't repeat herself, didn't insist. She just watched. Minutes passed. "Then I think we should restructure the model," another student said suddenly. "It'll avoid issues later." Same idea, different voice. The reaction changed instantly. "No." "I'll do that." Elias's fingers paused on the keyboard, just for a second, then continued typing. No reaction, no expression, but inside something tightened. Not anger. Not yet. Just recognition. This is how it works. Later, walking out of the room, she heard them again. "She's quiet. Yeah, I don't even know what she does. She just sits there." Elias kept walking. Same pace, same posture. But her mind was sharper now, watching more closely, tracking everything. In class, she adapted. If they wouldn't call on her, she stopped offering. If they wouldn't listen, she stopped speaking. But she didn't fall behind. She went further, longer nights, deeper focus, more problems, harder ones. She studied until the numbers blurred, then blinked and kept going. Her desk became a pattern of repetition. Solve, check, repeat, over and over. Not for grades, not for approval, for precision. Because if she was going to speak again, it wouldn't leave room for doubt. Weeks passed, then came the test. The kind everyone feared. No shortcuts, no memorization, just raw understanding. The room was silent except for pages turning, pens moving, time ticking. Elias didn't rush, didn't panic. She read each question slowly, then started, line by line, step by step, every answer clean, every transition deliberate. When time was called, she closed her paper quietly. No second guessing, no checking, just done. Days later, the results came back. Students gathered around, whispers, reactions. "Bro, that was brutal. I barely passed. What did you get?" Elias waited until the crowd thinned, then stepped forward. Her paper sat on the desk. Down, near perfect, not lucky, not guessed. For a moment, she just looked at it. No smile, no relief, just confirmation. Then she saw the note, written in sharp, deliberate handwriting at the top. Unexpected. See me. Her eyes stayed on the word. Unexpected. Not excellent, not impressive, not even good. Unexpected. Like it didn't fit. Like she didn't fit. Around her, voices continued. "Who got the highest?" I heard it was someone glanced at her paper. Then looked again. Confused. Elias closed the paper, slid it into her bag, zipped it shut. Her expression didn't change, but something inside her did. Because now it was clear. It didn't matter how precise she was, how correct, how undeniable. There would always be a question, always a hesitation, always a reason to doubt it. Not the work. Her. And for the first time, that quiet pressure started to turn into something else. Not frustration, not yet. Something sharper, something colder, something that didn't need approval anymore. Only proof. The knock on the door was soft, almost hesitant. "Come in." His voice was calm, controlled, like everything about him. Elias stepped inside. The office felt smaller than she expected. Books lined every wall, stacked neatly, perfectly arranged. Papers organized into precise piles, nothing out of place, just like him. He didn't look up immediately. He finished writing something first, slowly, deliberately, then placed the pen down. Now he looked at her. Hands still, eyes steady. Her test paper lay on the desk between them, face up. That single word staring back at her, unexpected. He tapped it once with his finger. "You understand why I asked you to come in?" Elias didn't answer right away. Dumber honest, simple, his eyes studied her, not aggressively, not kindly either, just measuring. He leaned back slightly in his chair. "Did you really do this on your own?" The question was quiet, but it didn't feel like a question. It felt like a conclusion waiting to be confirmed. Elias blinked once, slowly. Yes, he didn't respond, didn't nod, didn't react at all, just kept looking at her. Long enough to make the silence uncomfortable, long enough to make it feel like her answer wasn't enough. "Walk me through question 3, he said finally. Elias did, step by step, clear, no hesitation. He interrupted once, then again, each time sharper. "Why that method? Why not the standard approach? Are you sure about that transition?" Elias answered each one. But something in the room shifted, not in volume, in pressure, because this wasn't how he spoke to others. This wasn't curiosity, this was doubt. When she finished, he leaned forward slightly, fingers steepled together, eyes still locked on her. A pause. Then all right. That was it. No acknowledgement, no apology, just dismissal, you can go. Leah stood, picked up her paper, turned, and walked out. The hallway felt louder than before, or maybe she just noticed it more. Voices echoed, footsteps overlapped, someone laughed in the distance. "And then did you hear?" She slowed, just slightly. "They called her in for what? Her test." A small pause. "Then I heard she cheated." Elias kept walking, didn't turn, didn't stop, but the words followed her, down the hallway, around the corner, into the classroom. By the time she sat down, the atmosphere had already changed. Not obvious, but different. Glances lasted a little longer. Conversation stopped a little quicker. Someone looked at her paper, then looked away. The professor walked in like nothing had happened, set his bag down, picked up the chalk. "Let's continue." Normal. Like always, except it wasn't. Halfway through the lecture, he stopped, turned, looked directly at her. The room shifted instantly. Every head turned. She met his gaze. Yes, he wrote a new problem on the board. Longer, more complex, different from the rest. Come up and solve this. No warning, no preparation. Just now. Elias stood. Her chair moved back slowly. The sound felt louder than it should. Her steps were steady, but something inside her tightened. Not fear. Pressure. Heavy. She reached the board, looked at the problem. It wasn't impossible. She knew parts of it, recognized the structure, but the pieces didn't come together immediately, not like before. The room behind her was silent, waiting, watching. The professor stepped back, arms crossed, expression unreadable. "Go ahead," he said. Elias picked up the chalk. Her fingers felt less certain. She wrote the first line. Still right, but slower now. Her mind wasn't flowing. It was crowded. Too many thoughts at once. Too many eyes behind her. Too many expectations pressing down. She paused, just for a second, but it felt longer. A whisper behind her. See, another voice, softer, I knew it. Her grip tightened. She continued, pushed through, tried to reconnect the steps. She reached a transition point, the one that mattered. Her mind blanked, not completely, just enough. The answer was there, somewhere, but she couldn't reach it. Not like this, not here, not now. She wrote something anyway, partial, incomplete, not wrong, but not enough. She stepped back. The chalk lowered slightly in her hand. The silence stretched. The professor walked forward, slow. He looked at the board, then at her, then back at the board. A small nod, not impressed, not surprised, just so. The words landed quietly, but the effect wasn't. A few students laughed, not loudly, just enough to be heard. Elias didn't look at them, didn't react, didn't defend herself. She placed the chalk down, turned, and walked back to her seat. Each step felt heavier than before, not because she didn't know, but because it didn't matter. She sat down, opened her notebook, looked at the page, but didn't write, not yet. Her breathing was steady, her face calm, but inside everything burned. Not loud, not explosive, but real. Because for the first time it wasn't just quiet dismissal. It was public, clear, visible, and it hurt. That night her room was darker than usual. No music, number, distractions, just the desk, the lamp, and the problem. She opened her notebook, flipped to a clean page, rewrote the question from memory, every symbol. Then she sat back, closed her eyes for a moment, not to escape, to reset. Then she started again, slow. No eyes, no voices, just logic, step by step. The path became clearer. The missing piece returned. The transition she couldn't see earlier now obvious. She wrote it down, continued. Finished, complete. She stared at the solution for a long time. No smile, no relief, just certainty. Because now she knew. It was never about whether she could do it. It was about when she chose to. The next lecture didn't begin like the others. There was no warm-up, no review, no slow build. The professor walked in, placed his bag down, and went straight to the board. No greeting, no eye contact, just chalk. The sound echoed sharply as he began writing. Long lines, complex symbols, something unfamiliar even to the top students in the room. Elias watched from her seat. Still, every movement of his hand mattered, because she recognized it. Not the full structure, not yet. But the level, this wasn't a class problem. This was something else. When he finished, he stepped back, turned, and smiled slightly. This, he said, is your final challenge. A quiet ripple moved through the room. Students leaned forward. Uneasy, it's beyond your current level, he continued. Most of you won't even know where to begin. A pause. Then that's the point. His eyes scanned the room. Slower this time, more deliberate. Consider it a filter. No one spoke, but everyone understood. This wasn't about learning anymore. It was about separation. Who belonged, and who didn't. Elias didn't look away from the board. Not once, because now she saw it clearly. This was the same problem, the one from before, but extended, deeper, more layered, foundation, ale. The professor picked up the chalk again. If anyone solves this, he said, you'll earn more than just a grade, a faint smirk. You'll earn recognition. The word hung in the air. Recognition, not knowledge, not understanding. Recognition, the room shifted. It wasn't silence, it was pressure. Immediate. Students started whispering as soon as the lecture ended. That's impossible, no one's solving that. It's a setup. Exactly. He just wants to prove a point. Elias packed her bag quietly. No rush, no reaction, but her mind was already moving. Faster than before. Because now she wasn't just observing the system, she understood it, and she knew what this was. A test, not of intelligence, of endurance, of belief, of who would break first. That night the library felt different. More crowded, more tense. Students filled every table, laptops open, papers scattered, voices overlapping. Everyone was trying. Most didn't even know how to start. Elias walked past them all. Same corner. Seat. She placed her bag down, pulled out her notebook, and rewrote the problem. Every symbol. Every detail, from memory. Then she just stared at it, not rushing, not guessing. Studying, breaking it apart, piece by piece. Hours passed. The library emptied slowly. Chairs scraped. Lights dimmed. Voices faded. But Elias stayed. Her pen moved. Stopped. Moved again. Started over. Not frustration. She wasn't trying to solve it quickly. She was trying to understand it completely. The next morning her eyes were tired, but her focus wasn't. In class, students talked about nothing else. I heard someone spent all night on it. Did they solve it? No. Of course not. Elias sat in the back, silent, listening. Someone glanced at her, then leaned closer to another student. She's not even trying. Elias didn't react, didn't need to, because she was, just not where they could see it. Days passed. Sleep became optional. Meals forgotten. Time blurred. Her room turned into a controlled space of repetition. Notes stacked. Pages filled. Patterns mapped out across her desk. Different approaches. Different angles. Each one tested. Each one broken. Then rebuilt. She stopped attending conversations entirely. Stopped noticing who was watching. Who was whispering. Who was doubting. None of it mattered now. Because she wasn't trying to fit into their system anymore. She was working around it. One night she hit a wall. The problem refused to move. Every method collapsed. Every path led nowhere. She leaned back in her chair, eyes closed, breathing slow, not defeated, thinking, because the answer wasn't missing, it was hidden, and hiding meant it didn't follow the expected path. Her eyes opened. She looked at the page again, then at her previous work. Then she turned the page, started fresh, completely different approach, not traditional, not taught, something she built herself. It felt wrong at first, unstable, proven. Slowly, then faster, connections formed. Steps aligned. For the first time, the problem responded. Her pen moved quicker now, more certain, each line leading to the next, not perfectly, but forward. She stopped, looked at what she had. It wasn't complete, but it was something no one else had. A direction, a path. Elias leaned back, stared at the ceiling. A small breath left her lips, not relief, recognition, because this wasn't luck, this wasn't guessing, this was hers. Understood. The next day the classroom buzzed again. Students looked exhausted, frustrated, defeated. I'm done with it. Same, not worth it. No one solving that. Elias walked in. Same pace, same calm expression, but something was different, not visible, not obvious, but present. She sat down, opened her notebook, flipped to the page. The new approach, the breakthrough. Her eyes scanned it once, then she closed the notebook. Gently, someone they noticed, raised an eyebrow. Elias looked at him, just for a second, then shook her head slightly. That was all. No explanation, no detail. No, the professor entered, set his bag down, looked around the room. You've had enough time, he said. Silence. No one volunteered. No one moved. His eyes scanned the room again, pausing briefly, then moving on. Thought so, he said quietly. Elias didn't react, didn't raise her hand, didn't speak. Not yet, because she wasn't here to try. She was here to finish. And she would. Her terms, not theirs. Not his, because for the first time the pressure wasn't breaking her. And what she had now they still couldn't see. The night before the final class felt different, too quiet. Even the campus seemed to slow down, like it was holding its breath. Elias sat at her desk, the same page open in front of her. The same problem. The same line she had worked through again and again. But this time it didn't feel the same. Her eyes moved across the page. Nothing clicked. A connection she had built, blurred. The steps that once felt clear now looked uncertain. She leaned back slightly, blinking, then leaned forward again, tried to follow it, line by line. But something was off, not the problem. Her. A noise outside her door broke the silence. Voices. After. She didn't move at first, but the words carried through anyway. I'm telling you, no one's solving it. Facts. A pause. And then what about her? Elias' hand stayed on the page. Who? The quiet one. Carter. A small chuckle. She couldn't even finish that last problem. Exactly. Another voice joined. If she tries, it'll just prove the point. Laughter again. Not loud, not cruel. Just casual, like it wasn't even worth thinking about. Elias stared at the notebook, her name still echoing in the background. Dismissed. Again. But this time it didn't slide off. It stayed. Her chest tightened slightly. Her eye grip on the pen loosened, then tightened again. She looked back at the equation, tried to see it the way she did before, tried to find the path she built, but now every step felt questionable, every line uncertain. What if they're right? The thought came quietly, but it didn't leave. It settled, heavy. She exhaled slowly, closed her eyes. For the first time since this started, she felt tired, not just physically, deep. Worn, like everything she had been holding steady was starting to crack. She opened her eyes again, looked at the page. No clarity, no direction, just noise. Her pen slipped from her fingers and rolled slightly across the desk. She didn't pick it up. Instead, she leaned back fully, staring at the ceiling. The room felt smaller, quieter, too quiet. And in that silence, the doubt got louder. Maybe she had been wrong. Maybe she had pushed too far. Maybe this wasn't something she could finish. Maybe she wasn't supposed to. Her gaze shifted to the side. Her bag rested near the chair, closed. Still, she imagined the next day. Classroom, eyes, the silence, and herself standing there. Not finishing, not solving, just confirming what they already believed. Her jaw tightened slightly. She sat up, looked at the notebook again, then slowly closed it. The sound was soft, final. She stood, walked a few steps away from the desk, then stopped. Her phone lay on the bed. Screen dark. She stared at it for a moment, then picked it up, hesitated. Her thumb hovered over the screen, then pressed. The call rang once, twice, 3 times. Then, hey, baby, her mother's voice. Warm. Here. Elias didn't speak immediately. She swallowed. Then I don't think I belong here. The words came out quieter than she expected. But once they were out, they didn't stop. I've tried. I've done everything right. And it's still not enough. Her voice cracked slightly. She turned away from the desk, from the notebook, from everything. Got me like I'm not supposed to be here. Like I'm just waiting to fail. Silence on the other end. Not empty. Listening. Elias' grip tightened on the phone. I don't know if I can do this. Another pause. Then her mother spoke. Calm. Steady. You didn't come this far to ask for permission. Elias closed her eyes. The words landed differently this time, not as comfort, as truth. You hear me? Her mother continued. You didn't get there by accident. You didn't get there because someone let you. You got there because you belong there. Elias didn't respond, but her breathing changed, slower, deeper. And if they don't see it yet, her mother said, that's not your problem. Silence again, but not the same silence. Something shifted inside it. Elias opened her eyes, looked at the desk, at the notebook, at the problem she had walked away from. Her mother's voice softened. You don't need to prove anything to them. A pause. Just don't lie to yourself. The line settled. Clear, sharp. Elias nodded slowly, even though her mother couldn't see it. I know, she whispered. They stayed on the phone for a few more moments. No pressure, no advice, just presence. Then the call ended. The room felt different now. Not lighter, but clearer. Elias walked back to the desk, placed the phone down, looked at the notebook, still closed, still waiting. She didn't open it immediately, just stood there, thinking. Then she sat down, rested her hands on the table, and spoke quietly, not to anyone else, to herself. I'm going, not to prove them wrong, not to silence anyone, not for recognition, just to finish what she started. Her hand moved, opened the notebook again. The problem stared back at her, unchanged. But she wasn't, because now it wasn't about whether she could solve it. It was about whether she would show up and try. And this time she already had her answer. The silence in the room stretched just a little longer than it should have. The professor stood near the arms folded, waiting, expecting nothing. The equation behind him remained untouched, unchallenged, like it had already won. Elias sat in the back exactly where she always did. Same seat, same posture, but nothing about her felt the same anymore. Her notebook was closed. Her hands rested lightly on top of it. Still, controlled. The voices from the night before didn't echo anymore. They didn't need to, because something else had taken their place. Clarity. The professor exhaled softly, almost bored. No one? He said. A few students shifted in their seats, avoiding eye contact, looking down. Looking away, the room had already decided. Not worth it. Elias's eyes lifted slowly to the board. The full problem, every line, every layer. She didn't rush to analyze it again. She didn't second guess, because she already knew it. Not perfectly, but enough. Enough to move. Fingers pressed lightly against the notebook, then released. A small movement, barely noticeable. But it mattered. Because this time she wasn't waiting. A breath, slow. Then her hand rose, not halfway, not uncertain, fully, clear, unshaking. For a moment nothing happened. Then the shift began. One student noticed, then another. Heads turned. Whispers spread. Wait, is that? No way. The energy in the room changed instantly. Loud, but sharp. The professor's gaze followed the movement and landed on her. Elias Carter, back row. Quiet, unnoticed, until now. His expression didn't change immediately, but his eyes narrowed slightly. Studying, calculating. Then that same faint smile returned. The one that didn't quite reach his eyes. You? He said. The word hung in the air. Not a question. Elias didn't lower her hand, didn't hesitate, just met his gaze, calm, unmoved. A beat passed. Then he gestured toward the board. Go ahead. The room tightened. Every movement felt louder now. Elias stood. Her chair slid back with a soft scrape. She didn't rush, didn't hesitate. Her steps were steady as she walked down the aisle. Each one deliberate, measured. Eyes followed her, doubtful. Some already convinced of what was about to happen. But she didn't look at them, not once. Her focus stayed forward, locked toward the equation, nothing else, because this moment wasn't about them, not anymore. She reached the front, stopped just short of the board, close enough to see every detail, every flaw, every possibility. The professor stepped aside, giving her space, but still watching. Always watching, take your time, he said. But his tone hadn't changed, still controlled, still certain. Elias didn't respond. Her eyes traced the problem again, not searching, confirming, because she had already done the work, already found the path. This was different now. This wasn't discovery, this was execution. Behind her, the room held its breath. No whispers now, no movement, just silence, heavy, waiting. Her hand lifted slowly, reached for the chalk, her fingers brushed against it. White dust clinging lightly to her skin. For a brief second she paused, out of fear, out of awareness. Moment of the weight of everything that had led here. Then she picked it up, turned back to the board, her posture straight, her expression calm. No tension in her face, no rush in her movement. Just focus. The professor's eyes stayed fixed on her, expecting something, waiting for hesitation, for doubt, for the crack, but it didn't come. Because this time she wasn't trying to prove anything, not to him. The cord not even to the room behind her, she already knew what she could do. Now she was just going to show it. The chalk lifted, for a split second, then touched the board. The chalk moved, not fast, hesitant, just certain. The first line appeared cleanly beneath the problem, almost like it had always belonged there. No extra marks, no corrections, just a direct response, something no one else had even touched. Elias didn't look back, didn't check the room, didn't measure reactions, because she already knew what this would look like from the outside. Confusion first, then doubt. Else. Behind her, a student leaned slightly forward. "What is she doing?" Another whispered. "That's not the method," Elias continued. Second line, different from anything taught in that class. Not standard, not expected, but deliberate. Every symbol placed with care. Every transition smooth. She wasn't forcing the solution. She was revealing it. The professor shifted slightly, just enough to notice. His arms, still crossed, loosened a fraction. His head tilted. Watching more closely now. Because this wasn't random. The third step connected the first two in a way that didn't follow traditional structure. At least not on the surface. But underneath it worked. One student frowned. Another leaned in further. "Wait." Elias's hand didn't stop. A chalk glided across the board, leaving behind a path that only she fully understood yet. Her breathing stayed steady. Her posture unchanged. This wasn't pressure anymore. This was control. The room began to shift. Silence deepened. Whispers faded. Because something was happening. Something real. The professor uncrossed his arms. Slowly, almost unconsciously. His eyes tracked each movement now. Not dismissing. Not assuming. Analyzing. Because he saw it too. The structure. The logic. The risk. Elias paused for half a second. Not because she was stuck. Because she was choosing the next move carefully. Then she changed direction. Not backward. Not sideways. Forward. A leap. A move no one expected. A student near the front shook his head slightly. That one he stopped mid-sentence. Because the next line made it work. Not partially. Fully. A connection clicked. Audibly. Like something invisible had just locked into place. A quiet "oh" slipped from somewhere in the room. Elias didn't. I react. Didn't slow. Her hand moved again. Faster now but not rushed. Confident and certain. Each line building on the last. Not repeating. Not correcting. Just progressing. The professor stepped closer. Just one step. Then another. Until he was standing slightly to the side of the board, eyes fixed on the solution unfolding in front of him. His expression had changed. Subtly. The faint amusement from earlier was gone. Replaced by something sharper. Curiosity. Real curiosity. Because now he didn't know what came next. And that had never happened before. Elias reached the midpoint. The hardest part. Where most attempts would collapse. Where logic breaks. Where assumptions fail. She slowed. Just slightly. Not uncertain. Intentional. Her eyes traced the space ahead. She adjusted her grip on the chalk. White dust marking her fingers. Then she wrote. A clean transition. Unconventional. Risky. Perfect. The reaction wasn't immediate. It took a second. Then someone inhaled sharply. Another leaned back. No way, the room wasn't just watching anymore. It was following, trying to catch up, trying to understand. But she was already ahead, because she had been here before. Not in this room, not on this board, but in her mind, over and over, until it made sense, until it became clear, until it became hers. The professor's face tightened slightly, not in frustration, in realization, because now he saw where she was going. And more importantly, he saw that she was right. Elias didn't stop, didn't acknowledge it. Her world had narrowed again, just like before, just the board, the problem. Everything else faded. She moved into the final sequence, the part that determined everything. No room for error, room for doubt. Each line mattered now more than ever. The room was completely still, no whispers, no shifting, just the soft sound of chalk against the board. And even that felt louder, heavier. Elias reached the final step. Hands slowed, just slightly. The chalk hovered, not out of hesitation, out of precision, because this was the moment, where it all came together, where everything either held or fell apart. She wrote the last line, clean, exact, final. Then she stepped back, just half a step, enough to see it, the full solution, from beginning to end, complete, questionable, silence, not the kind from before, not empty, This silence was different. The chord heavy full, like the room itself needed a second to process what had just happened. No one moved. No one spoke. Elias lowered the chalk slowly, placed it back in the tray. The sound was soft, but it carried. The professor stood still, eyes fixed on the board, reading, rereading, tracing every step, looking for the flaw, the mistake, the gap, but there wasn't one. His jaw tightened slightly, then relaxed. For the first time he had nothing to say. No correction, no question, no doubt, just silence, real silence. Elias didn't look at him, didn't wait, didn't ask. She turned, calm, controlled, and began walking back to her seat. The room watched her again, but this time not the same way. Something had shifted, permanently. She reached her desk, down, opened her notebook, like nothing had happened, like it was just another day, another problem, another solution. Then it started, a single clap, certain, from somewhere in the middle, other. The sound grew, not loud at first, but steady, building, until the entire room filled with it. Applause, real, unfiltered. Elias didn't look up, didn't react, not because it didn't matter, but because it wasn't why she did it. The professor finally moved. Slowly, he turned toward the class, then back to the board, then to her. His expression had changed completely now, not arrogant, not dismissive, something else, something quieter. Respect, but he didn't say it, not out loud, because he didn't need to. The board said enough, the silence said enough, and for the first time the system had nothing left to question, because she hadn't just answered it, she had rewritten it. Oz didn't stop right away. It carried through the room, bouncing off the walls, filling the space that had once been silent for a very different reason. Elias kept her eyes on her notebook. Her pen rested between her fingers. Still, she didn't smile, didn't look up, but something inside her had settled. Not excitement, not relief, something quieter, something stronger. The noise around her slowly faded. Claps softened, voices returned, but the energy in the room had changed, completely. Students who hadn't noticed her before were looking now, not quickly, directly, trying to understand what they had just seen. The same people who had whispered, who had laughed, who had dismissed her without thinking twice. Now, they were quiet, careful. Elias closed her notebook gently. The sound was small, but it felt final. The professor cleared his throat. Once, and again, not to regain control, to reset himself. He walked back to the front slowly, glanced at the board, then turned to the class. For those of you who are still trying to understand what just happened, he paused. His eyes moved across the room, then stopped. That was a correct solution. The words landed differently than before. Not as a challenge, not as a test, as fact. No hesitation, no doubt. Elias didn't react, didn't look up, because she already knew. The professor continued. And not just correct, he added, turning slightly toward the board again. Original. That word held weight. More than anything else he had said, because it meant something, not expected, not taught, not repeated, built. His voice lowered slightly. Very few people would approach it that way. Silence followed, respectful, genuine. Then that's all for today. The class didn't move immediately, like no one wanted to break the moment. But eventually chairs shifted, bags zipped, footsteps filled the room again. Elias stood, same as always, calm, controlled. She didn't rush, didn't wait. Moved. As she walked toward the door, something unusual happened. Someone stepped slightly to the side, letting her pass. Then another. Small gestures, visible. A shift in space, earnestness in how she was seen. She didn't acknowledge it, didn't need to. Outside, the air felt different. Cooler, clearer, like something heavy had finally lifted. Days passed. The story spread. Not dramatically, not loudly, but steadily. Through conversations, through classrooms, through quiet mentions. Did you hear about that problem? She solved it. No, like actually solved it. People who had never spoken to her before now recognized her. Nods in hallways, glances that lingered. Curiosity replacing dismissal. But Elias didn't change. Her routine stayed the same. Same seat, same library corner. A quiet focus. Because none of this was new to her. Not the work, not the effort. Only the way people saw it. And that didn't define her. A week later, an email arrived. Short, direct. An invitation to join the research program. The one the professor had mentioned. The one no one expected her to reach. She read it once. Again. Her expression didn't shift much. No sudden reaction. Just a small breath. Steady. Then she closed the laptop. Not out of hesitation. Out of clarity. Because this wasn't a reward. It was a door. and she would walk through it, on her terms. Later that day, the professor approached her after class, not in front of everyone, not as a display. Just quietly. Elias. She looked up, met his gaze. Different now. No arrogance, no distance, just awareness. He hesitated for a fraction of a second, then said, "That was exceptional work. Simple, direct, no extra words." Elias nodded once. "Thank you." Her tone matched his. Calm, even she didn't wait for more. Or, because she didn't need anything else from him. He stepped back slightly, letting the moment end. And it did, cleanly, naturally, without weight. Weeks later, the classroom looked the same. Same seats, same board, same quiet tension that always lived in the air. But Elias wasn't in the back anymore. Not because she moved forward, because she no longer needed to hide. She sat where she wanted, unnoticed by herself, seen by everyone else. A new student sat in the back row, shoulders slightly tense, eyes focused but cautious. Familiar. The professor asked a question. The room paused. No one answered immediately. The same silence, the same hesitation. Elias noticed. Of course she did. She turned her head slightly, looked at the student, saw the same stillness, the same calculation, the same doubt. Then she spoke. Not loudly, not dramatically, just enough. "You should answer that." The student looked up. Surprised. Elias held her gaze for a second, then gave a small nod. That was it. No pressure. Just permission, the kind she never had. The student hesitated, then slowly raised their hand. The professor called on them. They answered. Not perfectly, but enough to start. Elias turned back to the front, her expression calm, grounded, certain. Because this time the story didn't end with proving anything. It didn't end with silence, or applause, or validation. It continued, in small moments, in quiet shifts, in the way one person chooses not to stay invisible, and the way another person decides they don't have to be.